Hello. I'm here to talk to you about 3 little words. Now, as a first-time newlywed at the age of 45, you might be thinking I'm going to talk about those 3 little words. And that's not true. I want to talk to you about 3 different little words that we use all of the time with our friends, our family, our coworkers, and maybe most importantly, ourselves. Those 3 little words: can't, don't, and but. The first word I want to talk to you about is can't. And maybe you've thought about this before. In 21 years of coaching track and field, I've heard this word a lot. I can't start from blocks. I can't run an even pace. I can't do push-ups. So there's a twofold problem with this. The first one is those things are actually seldom true. The second one is I'd suggest we have enough people in our life putting limits on ourselves that are putting limits on us. We don't need to put limits on ourselves, right? So something that actually is closer to the truth is I have trouble starting from blocks, right? I need help with learning how to pace laps in a race. I'm not really interested in expending the time and effort in learning how to do push-ups because I think there's areas where I can better spend my time that will help me race faster, right? All of those things are true, and one of the other benefits is that also gives us the agency back that we can choose to learn, to get better at, to ask help for, or decide that that's not our priority, but then that becomes our choice and our agency. Now, at the end of the day, right, those track opportunities, right, we have few opportunities for those things, unless maybe in the metaphorical sense. We could hypothesize that learning to run an even pace might be really useful if you're doing a long-term project at work. But the more important thing is teaching people to pay attention to when we hear the word can't and when we think the word can't to ourselves, right? Because that way, when we say, I can't pass this chemistry exam, that becomes a question or a check. Is it that I can't or that I have trouble with? Saying that I can't do 3 research papers due at the end of the semester might become, I need help learning how to plan to manage these 3 papers together. And I can't make an interesting graph might become, I don't really want to spend the time or the effort to do this really, sophisticated thing with statistical data because there's other parts of the project that are more important where I'd rather spend my time. What if we take this one step further? I can't make new friends. Maybe it's I'm having trouble making new friends because at college there was a whole bunch of people around me with similar interests, and now that I'm starting with my first job, that's tougher. I can't make it through another day might be I need help because I'm overwhelmed with all the responsibilities I have. I can't give to that cause or that organization might be, actually I'd rather choose to contribute in a different way or contribute to another organization. All of those things, again, are okay and have the advantage of being true, but the most important piece of that is it returns our agency to us, right? It becomes not about a lack of ability, but it becomes a choice. I can learn how to do that. I can ask for help in doing that, or maybe the really honest answer, that's not where I want to put my time and energy in figuring out how to do something. So the second word I want us to think about is don't. And I bet you we have no idea how many times in a day we hear, say, think, write that word. Why do we say don't forget when we could say remember? Now, we could digress, and I can go on about how your subconscious actually doesn't process the negative very well. So when we say don't do something, what we really imagine is really visualizing that thing and then putting a big X through it, right? And that's not really a productive way for us to move towards the vision of what we want. Now, some of you might be golfers, or you might have friends who are golfers who usually do a pretty solid job of hitting the ball off the tee and getting it to go at least 100 yards. Now, what happens when we put a water hazard right in front of that tee? All of a sudden, there's golf balls splashing into the water right off the tee, right? What do you think is happening, right? How much do you want to bet when people are driving off the tee, they're thinking, don't hit the ball in the water? So what are they imagining? Hitting the ball in the water, maybe with a little X through it, right? But actually what they're really doing when they hit the ball in the water is manifesting the vision of what they're thinking about and what they're picturing. And that's one of the reasons why we want to move towards thinking about what it is that we do want to do. One of the interesting parts of my job is I get to work with college students all the time, helping them develop the knowledge, skills, and environment to make healthier choices. That means I get to talk to them about alcohol, sex, and alcohol and sex, right? And you might not want to be envisioning that right now. But, you know, it's complex and difficult work, and it leads to a temptation to want to say, don't. Don't hook up with someone you don't know well. Don't have sex without consent. Don't have sex without protection. And maybe the biggie, don't have sex with someone if you or they have both been drinking, right? So any of you who've ever been a teenager, think about how don't messaging worked for you, right? So not only is it not particularly effective, it's really a missed opportunity for us to mentor, in this case, the young people in our lives, in the skills to navigate healthy relationships and help them manifest the vision of what they want, right? If you're gonna hook up with someone you don't know well, be extra clear on communication. Hey, before you have sex, make sure you and your partner are on the same page and are equally excited about what you're about to do. Suddenly I'm feeling sorry for the person who has to do this all in sign language for you all. Thank you so much. Have a conversation with your partner about which protection you'll use. And, right, maybe most importantly, consider having sober sex. Fun fact, and those of you who know me know I love data and I love giving fun facts. In an anonymous survey, almost 90% of Grinnell students strongly agree they prefer to be sober for sex. Not only that, there is more self-reported sober sex happening on our campus than not sober sex. So when we message to our students about considering having sober sex, not only are we avoiding the negative and telling them what not to do and actually introducing shame and a not helpful vision, we're actually helping them do what they're choosing to want to do in the first place anyway, what's most often happening, and we're choosing to not reinforce a norm. So, you know, think about if we taught driving that way, right? Through don'ts. Don't swerve your car into other lanes. Don't stop your car by putting your foot on the gas pedal, right? That's probably not good teaching and mentoring. But in general, right, when we're working with friends, when we're mentoring people, when we're talking about ourselves, the more we can focus on the vision of what it is we want to move towards versus what we are avoiding, the more effective we're going to be. Now, this is a place where I think we could really use some help from the music industry and how we might reframe this. So I think about it like the police might ask us to stand further away from me, right? No doubt could suggest that we stay silent. And Journey could encourage us to continue believing. So the last word I want to talk to you is but. And this one is really sneaky because at its surface, but does not sound nearly as negative as can't or don't, and therein lies the problem. So think about the last time someone came to you and asked for advice, and they might say, I have this thing, and it will cure cancer, and it will create world peace, and it will ensure a basic universal income, but. That but negates everything you said before it, right? And it says, hey, the really important part is what's coming next, right? It's despite. So think about, right, when you've heard someone say, he's a great guy, but. I'd like to go back to school, but. And the worst offender of all, I'm sorry, but. I'm here to tell you any apology that has the word but in it is not an apology at all. So I'm not the first one to think about the importance of this word. William Miller and Stephen Rolnick, in multiple editions of the book, Motivational Interviewing, ask us as practitioners to pay attention to this. So another piece of what I do in my work is I meet one-on-one with college students after they've had some sort of alcohol-related incident. And the idea is that we use that time to explore any discrepancy between the students' own values and goals and their behaviors, right? Because it's really powerful to do that. In fact, it's such an effective strategy for behavior change that when the Surgeon General came out with the document Facing Addiction in America in 2016, it was one of only 2 evidence-based strategies he recommended for working with college students. So I want you to hear the difference. You really enjoy going out, blowing off steam with your friends at the end of a week, but you are disruptive to your community. You really enjoy going out, blowing off steam with your friends, and you are disruptive to your community. In the first example, I'm noting their motivation, their reason, but then really intentionally or unintentionally, I'm somehow tipping my hand that that's not what's important. The second part is what's important. When I say and, that allows us to hold both things at once as true and important. You like going out, blowing off steam with your friends at the end of the week, and you were disruptive to your community. That creates a space for that student and I to navigate that ambivalence together. So many of you, most of you, probably aren't going to have a lot of motivational interviewing conversations with college students about their alcohol use. But many of you, or most of you, might have people come to you and talk to you to ask for advice. And that's where this really comes into play, is how we help create space. Sometimes when people ask you for advice, they straight up want to know what it is you think. And it's fine to give them that advice. But when someone comes to you deeply ambivalent about something, you will probably find this. Any suggestion you make pushes them in the exact opposite direction, right? I'm thinking about quitting my job. Yeah, you really should quit your job because you've been wanting to start this business forever. Well, yeah, but I really like my boss and I might get a promotion in the next year. I'm thinking about quitting my job. I really don't think you should. That would be irresponsible. Yeah, but I've been thinking about starting this business for a long time, right? So we know that happens. What does it look like instead if we find a way when we're talking to our friends, our family, our coworkers, our mentees, and even ourselves to hold that space for both things to be true at the same time, right? You like your boss, you might be going up for a promotion, and you really wanted to start your own business. I want to go back to school, and I need to find a way to pay for it. I'm sorry, and what you said really hurt me, so I responded without thinking. Now, will paying attention to when you see, hear, think these 3 little words make a big radical difference in your life? Probably not. But I don't want you to think that it can't. Thank you.